Borley will face Arsenal. We knew this game would probably go longer than the 90 minutes. It did. It finished on penalties, and it finished in Real Madrid's favour. It is they who march on to the next stages of the competition they love so dearly. Frank Leboeuf was watching it for us, but Craig, it's hard to look at the whole game right now and go past that moment, that penalty from Julian Alvarez, because that's going to be the biggest talking point after this clash.
It is. It's very controversial. The double kick, we couldn't see the ball move. It didn't look as if it even rotated at all. And yet, a quarter-final place at stake, a Madrid derby, a hostile atmosphere, an end-to-end game in the end, is decided by going to VAR and basically putting a magnifying glass to see if Julian Alvarez gets the minusest of touches with the left foot, which they say he does, so we accept that. And if you're a stickler for the rules and the laws, then okay. But this is the kind of over-officiating that this game has become with the technology and all that goes with it, that we are now, it seems, unless I'm proven wrong when we possibly get a better angle of it, is that the most minute of touch would say his big toe or his lace, they've deemed to be ruling that out. I think in such an emotionally charged game, that is very, very, very harsh. We've seen instances where balls have almost left the spot, and that's obvious. This was not obvious.
No. What we're looking for is a change in the spin of the ball. When there is that second touch, usually the ball takes an upward trajectory with spin, with overspin, because of that second touch. There is no change in the spin of the ball here. And so whatever angles we have been shown and the world was shown actually don't tell us the whole story. But there has to be some sort of image in which they saw something that was clearly and obviously a second touch from Julian Alvarez. We haven't seen it. And we're anxious to see it. Because if indeed it comes down to what you were just talking about there, Craig, that we have to indeed make the image larger and magnifying glass, and now we're sort of looking for reasons as to why this penalty should not count, then I think this is a slippery slope that I don't believe this game deserved. The quality of this match deserved being decided on that.
We are going to air as soon as this game has finished tonight, so we haven't seen any replays yet or any magnified images.
Other than the ones that we saw.
The point is
the ball never moved or rotated. And so the touch, when you're running up, and sorry, because I know Frank will want to have his opinion on it. When you're running up at a reasonable pace to take a penalty and you make a contact with the ball, any reasonable contact, that ball is going to move, right? And normally when the ball moves, normally the penalty is missed, because then when the striking foot comes down, it's catching the ball in the wrong point. And more often than not, the penalty is shanked or skied or missed.
Obviously, a second touch, you would see it.
Yeah, and so the point being is here that when you're running up with such force, if there was any touch of note, the ball would have moved. And to go back again and look at that technology and say, I just can't get my head around. We have a Madrid derby to get into the quarterfinals of the Champions League. It is absolutely humongous, and we are talking about a team. Now, they may not have won it in the end. We don't know, because Llorente missed his penalty, Vasquez missed his penalty. But this is the crux of how they end up in that position. And it just feels to me that this is the wrong way we're going with this sort of micromanaging these very small, situations that really have no effect on what happened.
What do you think, Frank?
Well, I'm for the VAR, but the thing is, I want to have the evidence of it if there is a situation like that. If we have an offside for half of an inch, as long as we see it and we have the evidence of it, we believe, and an offside is an offside. And it's the same for that. As soon as we see something and we have an evidence of it, we're going to believe it. And if Alvarez touched twice the ball, we want to see it. But because we didn't see anything, because we didn't see the ball moving at first, we cannot believe it. And then we go to wondering and asking answers. We want to see VAR proving us that he touched the ball twice. And therefore, technology will work. But now we can have question marks and say, no, we don't have the evidence of it. We didn't see the ball. We were football players. We know when the ball moves and we know a double touch. We know it works. And normally, you look ridiculous. But it worked very well for Alvarez if he touched twice. But we want to have the evidence of it. And we don't. That's where we cannot agree with the VAR and the rules of it.
I bet you there's umpteen cases before VAR and even with VAR where a player hasn't slipped, but the standing foot has come down so close to the ball, because that can happen sometimes. You try and plant your standing foot, and I bet there's cases there's been a touch. The best thing I can say there is his left big toe at that angle may or may not have touched the ball. Jesus, man, this is the Champions League, right? Is this where we are? There's all these VAR naysayers out there, and I'm not one of them, right? I like the technology, but you have to use it sensibly. And this is just going to fuel the people that are saying, this is just taking all the emotion and skill and spontaneity out of the game. Come on, oh, for God's sake. Just absolutely.
No, you're not convinced.
Craig, no, we're not convinced because we can see now, again, we've been football players, that his left foot doesn't touch the ball. It happened to me when I slipped, and I remember also Beckham slipping just before a penalty. I was lucky. It went on the top corner. I was very fortunate. But I tell you, if my left foot would have touched the ball while I wanted to touch it, to kick it with the right foot, I would have missed it. That's for sure. And we see, because they put it higher, bigger, that the ball is not moving. Therefore, how can you prove that he made a double touch? It's impossible. Therefore, you have to accept the goal.
Now, we do have to say, obviously, they're our own pictures because they're going straight out after the game.
Well,
not
listen,
any
somebody will
replays
come
from
up with
UEFA
some nerd will come up with something from one of the 40 cameras around the game.
It doesn't have to be a nerd.
I'm angry. I'm actually angry about that. But let's go to the game.
Let's go to the game.
Let's go to the game. I think Real Madrid can, although they got better, it's not going well for them in terms of their performances. That front three was awful. Midfield wasn't great. Bellingham got better, for sure. Atleti, obviously, a great start to the game, magnificent start to the game. It was a perfect scenario to get the crowd behind you. And then it was only Thibaut Courtois making saves, particularly early on. It's a difficult one to talk about now because I just feel so much has sort of gone on and kind of forgot almost some of the things that have happened. But, I thought I'd let both teams, I give them a lot of credit for the attitude and the fight, and some of Atleti's shape and their work rate was tremendous. Courtois did have to make some saves, maybe some small moments like the Correa one when he came on. He could have laid it off. There was one or two others. Maybe a little lucky on the penalty because Mbappe threw himself down. There's no doubt about that.
But then Vinny Sky in the penalty is obviously a big moment from the 90 minutes as well.
That's a big moment. But Real Madrid, if they're going to win this competition, and they've had a huge slice of luck today, I think, with what's going on, they're going to have to play a lot better. And we saw them being super energetic at the end, and Ali mentioned that if some of them had been that energetic during the game, maybe that would have been put to bed. So I think it's another one where you just go, and they said it in the commentary, it just feels like somehow Real Madrid will come out on top. That is what they do, and you have to give them a lot of credit for it. But in terms of a performance, as a generalisation, I didn't think it was very good at all. Because
they do usually come out on top, but it didn't have that feeling from them tonight against Atleti.
What gave it away? The fact that they gave up a goal 20 seconds in?
But even what Craig's saying afterwards, like some of the big names that you're expected to deliver that just not looking themselves tonight.
No, and as we're watching the game, one of the comments that I made to UK is that I just don't see how Real Madrid create enough chances tonight. The way that they were playing, it just didn't feel like they had enough of an edge to be able to create enough spaces with movement away from the ball, with individual moments, because it really comes down to individual moments when we're talking about Real Madrid. You have to have Mbappe at his best. You have to have Vini at his best. You have to have Rodrigo at his best, Bellingham at his best, and hope that one of them has an individual moment of brilliance. And that wasn't happening today. In fact, the penalty for Real Madrid comes because it's the one time, and when I say the one time, I am talking the one single time in which we saw Kylian Mbappe running at defenders. Now, some of that is credit to Atletico Madrid, given the fact that they set up so well defensively and that they weren't allowing that space for Kylian Mbappe. But the other thing that has to be said is that Kylian Mbappe's movement away from the ball is horrendous and was horrendous tonight. A lot of standing around, too much standing around. If I'm a defender, Frank would know this, right? If I'm a defender and you have a guy with the quickness and the speed of Kylian Mbappe, do you want Kylian Mbappe posting up as he was a lot of the time this game, in which he's just kind of backing up into defenders? As a defender, would you prefer that, or would you prefer Kylian Mbappe running off of your shoulder into blind spots, moving around, shifting inside, shifting outside? Of course you want him to sit here and be posting up, because you know he's right there in front of you. Mbappe was all too comfortable, just, yeah, give me the ball here, post up, post up, post up, or I'll come to the ball. Never threatening in the side, never threatening behind, little quick movements. Even with the positioning of Atletico Madrid, that was so very good, you can still do little probes in behind that move defenders. And if they track your run, that means that you're opening the space for somebody else. But that never happens for Real Madrid. That's Kylian Mbappe. Vini Jr. Walking. And you just missed a penalty. And you're still walking. Madrid derby. Champions League. How can it get any bigger? You just missed a penalty. You would imagine that there would be a situation, an emotional reaction to that. Said, I have to make up for this. Instead, you have to have other players tracking back for him because he's walking. That is unacceptable.
Did you expect more from Madrid tonight, Frank?
Oh yes, a lot more. I mean, on the 4 half that we saw, I think Atletico Madrid won 3 out of 4. I mean, they were defensively organized as a masterpiece, and they knew how to handle the Real Madrid very slow motion attacks. That was easy for them. And when they had the ball, I think Atleti did very well, and they had, as Craig mentioned, many chances to score as well. So I'm very disappointed by Real, but you know, that's Real Madrid. At the end of the day, they did it. But it's true, if we talk about Mbappe, I think we can make a statement. Mbappe is not a striker. He's never been a striker. He needs spaces. He needs to get his pace up in order to attack. And when he had the chance to do so one time, as Ale said, he did it. And now he's unstoppable. But because of the setback of Atleti, it was impossible to do so. So if you want to fight or disorganize Mbappe, you sit back, you just wait, you don't give spaces, he won't do anything because he's not that type of player. So I don't want to see Mbappe playing as a striker because he won't be useful as he should be. Then there are some tension. I felt really tensions between Bellingham and Vini Jr. We saw Bellingham, shouting to some players. He wasn't very happy, especially against Vini. I don't know if how the atmosphere is in the dressing room, but I felt some tension. I didn't feel some communications between them. There are some question marks about the way they want to play. They want to attack. But overall, yeah, I think Atleti showed, especially at the Santiago Bernabeu, but also today, that they were more organized. They were more willing of doing something. I think there are like 12 kilometers, I would say 7 miles different between Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid runnings. That's impossible. In Champions League, that's too big gap. It's impossible to do that. Meaning that Atleti worked hard, Real Madrid didn't do so, but it was enough to go through.
You can always talk about Jude Bellingham not playing well at times, and he grew into that game, but I don't think you can ever, or very often, question his work rate and his commitment. And he certainly gets frustrated, and I think he was getting frustrated with some of those front guys. I'm not surprised Real Madrid didn't play particularly well because they are a tough nut Atleti to crack, very organised, one of the most organised sides in Europe. They are at times lazy up front, and I think we see in these games why Barcelona have beaten them pretty comfortably twice already this season. And yes, in the first game at the Bernabeu, there was numerous chances for Real Madrid to beat this offside trap, but they weren't smart enough. And they got punished in the end. And I think when you look at how they played tonight, you can see why Barca have scored goals against them. And Barca are their big rivals along with Atleti for this La Liga title. And the reason I say that is when they lose the ball and they're so disjointed and there's a lack of tracking back, it really exposes the midfield. And in the midfield it included Luka Modric, and that also can't happen these days, not from the start, because they got overrun in there, is that when teams get at their back four, you can really expose them, Real Madrid. Now, Barca are better at exposing a back four, arguably, than any other team in Europe at the moment. Because when Rafinha, Lewandowski and Lamine Yamal get at you, they are quick, they are creating chances, and they are skinning defenders. Now, although Atleti created chances today, they do not have the clinical efficiency of the Barca front line. Few do, not many do. And I think we can see that unless Real Madrid get that side of the game right, you can't lose the ball constantly and have 4 or 5 out of the game. You can't. Because the real top sides with the best forwards in the game will punish you. The downside for Atleti is they don't have that. They have Griezmann, who's clever, but he's not the quickest. They have Alvarez, who's running about all over the place, great player, but he's kind of doing it on his own. And then they go to the big Sorloth and Correa. They're good players, but they haven't got the quality that Barca have. And I think we can see why Barca, and maybe even the Bayern Munichs or whoever it is, might expose this back line if Real Madrid don't work as a team. Tonight they did not work as a team, if we're being honest, and they got away with it.
It's really odd because we're talking about Real Madrid almost in a negative sense. And they're the ones that actually advance. They're the ones still in the competition. And yet you feel a whole lot more encouraged about the performance and the personality and the character of Atletico Madrid. And so when it comes down to actually making it through, and whether that is indeed the test of success, well, Real Madrid have done the job. They moved on. But to your point, Craig, I think there are too many holes in this team for Carlo Ancelotti to be able to cover all those holes and still play Rodrigo, Mbappe, Vini Jr., Bellingham all at the same time. While it is true that Atletico Madrid is limited compared to Barcelona, not limited in general, but compared to Barcelona, yes, they are limited, you still find moments in the match in which Julian Alvarez is getting open in transition, or Giuliano Simeone is carrying the ball without anybody actually challenging the moment of transition for Atletico Madrid. Angel Correa getting in behind. Sorloth, who's not the quickest guy, also having an opportunity in the extra time. And what's really happening here for Real Madrid is that you have Fede Valverde playing as a right back today from the start because you fear what happens if you play Lucas Vázquez. But in having Valverde cover the right-hand side, then you give up something in the middle. Because now you don't have his legs and his personality and his character and his energy in the midfield. And so then you're sort of choosing, where am I going to go and get stretched if you're Carlo Ancelotti? If I move this guy over to that side, I'm exposed here. If I move him here, then I'm exposed over there. It doesn't seem like he has the answers in order to accommodate those 3 guys playing up top and then have balance with the team. They were able to survive today. But as we spin it forward, it's difficult to see once they get into a level of the competition in which we're talking about teams that can expose those frailties defensively more consistently than Atletico Madrid did today, then that's the trouble for Real Madrid because their performances have fallen and they're depending on the individual moment for them to win matches.
Again, jumping ahead a little bit, the team they have next might fall into that category too. Arsenal. It's Arsenal they've got, isn't it?
Yeah.
And again, a side who are probably stronger at the back than Real Madrid, are probably stronger in the middle of the park. If you look at the moment, you know, Camavinga's on the bench, it's Tchouaméni and Modric, and look at Modric, that's not a strong midfield in terms of legs. But again, it's something that they might get away with if they play in this kind of manner again, because the one problem Arsenal have is their front line is kind of decimated. You know, Bukayo Saka won't be back, Gabriel Jesus is out, Kai Havertz, for what it's worth, is out, and so they've struggled in that department as well. And so again, this is a game that might fit them well. If this front line play in the same manner, which is if they don't get their way and they lose the ball, or they cough up possession and they don't chase back, that do Arsenal have the personnel in the attacking areas to take advantage of that? Really, Atleti didn't quite have that, or could have put this game away. So that could be a good fit for them as we get further in the competition. If they do go through, if they don't improve these facets of the game, I really don't buy into, well, it's Real Madrid, the Champions League is theirs because this is what they do, blah, blah, blah. I think it's been exposed this season, and I think if he doesn't get it right, it will be exposed again.
And before we do go on and talk more about the quarterfinals, Frank, what does this do for Atleti? We saw Diego Simeone at the end rallying the troops, thanking all the fans for everything that he saw, because obviously they will feel on the night it was unjust for them. What does this result do for them?
Another disappointment. I'd say that they have a black cat, and the black cat is Real Madrid. And when you are, sharing a city, it's the worst of the worst. And they worked hard. I think they deserve to go through, but they don't. They lost the final in 2016. Every time they play against Real Madrid, they have an issue, and at the end of the day, they don't go through. So it's becoming a trauma for them, and very disappointing, because they work so hard. I mean, you cannot complain about anything. It's only about details, about maybe mislack. I don't know what can you say. You have to keep on believing that one day is gonna change, but it doesn't. And Real Madrid showed again that in Champions League, even if they're not good, they're quite lucky and they go through. And it happened when they won against Liverpool in the final of the Champions League. Before they advanced against Paris Saint-Germain, against Chelsea, against Manchester City, where they were better than them, but they went through. And that's a fact. That's a statement. Real Madrid is almost unbeatable in the Champions League. And you can be Atletico Madrid, be ready for that. It must be so frustrating for the players, for the fans, and for the coach, because they worked hard, they deserved, but they didn't do it.
It's got to be really tough for Diego Simeone, and it's got to be really tough for these players. When you look at the performance, today in particular, can you get a better performance out of Pablo Barrios? I don't think so. Can Giuliano Simeone be any better than he was today? And no, I don't think there is much higher of a ceiling for certain individual players who were really good today for Atletico Madrid. You're getting the best out of your players, and still that doesn't seem to be good enough. That's the part that is puzzling for Diego Simeone and frustrating for these players. And oh, by the way, the reason he's getting people fired up and the stadium once the game is over, because, reminder, they're playing Barcelona on the weekend. And so he needs to find a way to pick up these players and say, I need more of that, more of the same coming up this weekend, because we want to stay in the title race. It's really difficult to do.
It's a great chance not to feel sorry for yourself, isn't it?
Yeah.
They didn't play well against Getafe, got beat. Can't afford any more of those if they're going to stay in the title race. So when you have this scenario where you're in the dressing room and you're so deflated, and maybe you feel wronged by that referee decision or whatever it is the worst case scenario is you've got 10 days to stew on it. They've got a few days, and they've got to pick themselves up, brush themselves down, and get themselves back in this title race. From a player, that's what you want. You want to get back out there and get going again.
It is 9-3 on aggregate, 2-2 on the night. But of course, what it does mean is that next up for Arsenal is Real Madrid in the quarterfinals, as we take a look at that side of the bracket. And Real Madrid are slight favourites in this game as well when you take a look at the odds for it. Initial reaction to a draw like this then, guys. Frank?
I don't know what to say. No, I think somebody, I think it's Craig or Ali alluded it and saying, what's going to happen to Real Madrid? I think it's Craig. Yeah, it's one of you. Yeah, guys. I think it was Craig. But yeah, what can I expect? Because, yeah, Arsenal are stronger at the back, but they have some deficiency at front to score goals. And they will have a kind of an open door against Real Madrid. And they play the first leg at home. So, do we think that Arsenal can go through? Yes, they are, for me, more organized, more stabilized in the middle of the park to beat Real Madrid. But, well, you know what? Again and again and again, we see Real Madrid going out of the competition and it's still there. And it's still there with all the injuries, with the no connection between the lines, blah, blah, blah. But they are there. So it's going to be a big task for Arsenal. And you will have to work hard, and you will have to work hard the two legs. So you will have to win the game, the first leg, and be strong, very strong at the Santiago Bernabeu, the second leg. But yes, Arsenal, for me, are the favourites.
This Real Madrid's not unbeatable this season.
No, they are not. But I don't think that Arsenal presents the issues that really trouble Real Madrid. What have we been talking about Arsenal this season? They have issues creating chances. They have issues scoring goals. They don't have the individual talent in the final third to trouble Real Madrid in the manner that we keep bringing up Barcelona because he's the team that has exposed those issues for Real Madrid at a very high level. Where are the goals going to come from for Arsenal? Where are the moments of transition? Where is the speed coming from the outside? How do you expose the open spaces in the final third that Real Madrid leaves open because they're an unbalanced team? I don't think Arsenal has that. And while they can defend really well, I don't think that they can defend any better than Atletico Madrid can. And they can be any tougher than Atletico Madrid can. And that's why I look at it and go, the big task for Real Madrid was getting past Atletico Madrid, much more so than Arsenal. I'm picking Real Madrid.
So how does Arteta approach?
We just showed you that starting 11 because that's the ones that won't play against Real Madrid.
Okay.
For the most part. Apart from one or two issues that they have, and by the way, they didn't drop points at Man United at the weekend because they don't have a striker. Look, don't buy into that. They did not create the chances for a striker to miss. Albeit it's not an ideal situation for them. It is what it is. Do they believe they can beat Real Madrid? I have a big question about that. Do they believe they can win the Premier League, whether it be Man City or Liverpool? I have a big question about that. Is it in their head that they are always the bridesmaid, never the bride kind of scenario at this moment in time with this manager? I think that's a legitimate question to ask, is that when he has his full armoury, does he have what it takes, the manager, to take them to the next step? Now, whatever happens against Real Madrid, we know they're not going to win the league. They're out of the Carabao Cup, they're out of the FA Cup to Man United, which is not a feather in your cap, by the way. And they probably won't win the Champions League. But he will go again next year, right? But do they really believe, and does he believe that they have what it takes to get to the next level? That, for me, is the big question. They have a lot of talent, but do they have the mentality? We know the Real Madrid side have the mentality, even in adversity. And I think for Arsenal, it's maybe gone past are these players good enough do these players and does this manager really believe they can get back amongst the elite and mix it with them? We're going to get a little, taste of that when this Real Madrid game comes around. Because let's be frank about it, in terms of a title challenge to Liverpool, it's been
meh.
Pretty embarrassing of late. So this is their one chance to go and make a statement.
It is Aston Villa who will march on. It's PSG who they will be facing next. But let's talk a little bit about Aston Villa, particularly Marco Asensio, seeing as though we have mentioned him. Yes, he is on loan at the moment, but once again, scoring the goals and making a difference for Unai Emery's side, Craig.
He's a quality footballer that's sort of lost his way a little bit after the halcyon early days at Real Madrid. And Villa are taking, I mentioned it, a no-risk, short-term, giving them both players a chance, Rashford and Asensio. And Asensio is coming up with the goods, and it's great to see. And he looks as if he's enjoying his football again, and I think him and Rashford, that's what it needs. Play with a smile on your face. And Unai Emery realised he needed something a little bit different. Something that's got a bit of sparkle, a bit of quality to come off the bench or start. And the good news is, because of UEFA's rules, that the parent club can't influence team selection, he gets to play or, play a part against PSG. And I love that. I think when a player's loaned out by a club to another team, and I know in the Premier League, if you loan a player out, he can't play against his parent club. I don't agree with that, because if you're loaning me out, good grief, I want to come back and ram it down your throat because you don't want me. So UEFA are allowing him to play, and I think that's good news for Aston Villa. I don't think, ultimately, after watching PSG yesterday, I think it's going to be a struggle. But what about Aston Villa? Quarterfinals, and let's be honest, it's only because this format has changed. If the format had not changed and we were in the old league system, Aston Villa and Club Brugge would probably not be playing to get in the quarter-final. The scenario is they are, so it's magnificent for them, but I see this, unfortunately for them, this road, I think, is going to come to an end.
Frank, it's interesting with Marco Asensio, because the word is that Unai Emery's been trying to get him for a while. He tried in 2023. Obviously, Marco Asensio went to PSG, and it hasn't been what maybe he was hoping for there, but it does seem as though he's found a club that's the right fit for him right now. Indeed,
I think something clicked since he signed for, he's on loan to Aston Villa, and we can feel that he's a different player. I never saw what I actually see right now with Asensio. He was somehow lost when he was playing for Paris Saint-Germain, and we can see that he feels the spaces, he feels the goal nowadays with Aston Villa. So it's a chemistry between his teammates, maybe the way he works with Unai Emery week in, week out. But it works. It works, and it's going to be very interesting. And good luck to him. I mean, it's true that he's on loan. So it says that Paris Saint-Germain doesn't want him. So he has the right to play, and he has the right to show them that they're wrong, that he should play for Paris Saint-Germain. So you have to wish him good luck, because somehow it's unfair. But that's going to be very, very difficult, because Paris Saint-Germain showed yesterday that they are very good.
He looks a cut above, though, Marco Asensio right now.
Yeah, I think he elevates the profile in the attack of Aston Villa, elevates the quality in the attack of Aston Villa. Now, here's the issue with Marco Asensio, and the problem that has been an issue for him over the course of his career. What is his position? He's not quick enough to be a winger and go at defenders. And does he work the underneath spaces? Does he come from the outside? He's not an actual out-and-out striker. And so the good moments of Marco Asensio are really good. But the reason as to why he goes from here to there and everywhere and is unable to stick into a starting position in whichever club he has been, well, the issues that he had at Real Madrid is that Real Madrid was loaded and he wasn't going to play. And then PSG, what is his role? What is his position? The issue for him has been consistently finding a role with a team that suits him and suits his skill set. It seems, and this is very early on, that with Unai Emery, he has found that at Aston Villa. The question then becomes, is it sustainable? And are we going to see consistent productivity from Marco Asensio, not just over a period of a month, but over the course of a season? Right now, he's elevated the profile of Aston Villa, and they're taking full advantage of it.
Yes,
But you can see at PSG why, if you've watched PSG, and particularly if you watched some of the two games at Liverpool, you can see why he wouldn't fit into this Luis Enrique approach. Because the Luis Enrique approach, which we got an absolute bird's eye view of 2 games plus extra time, is teamwork. And I'm not suggesting he's a bad attitude, but he's never one that you would say is the hardest worker.
He's not a grinder.
He's not a grinder, and he's at times a luxury. Now, it's a good luxury for Villa to have, right? But it's not a luxury really for PSG, because they're about closing down with pace as a team and as a unit, right? And then when they win it, it's pace and it's directness. And we saw that, and you just feel that Marco Asensio, that's not his skill set. And so it's frustrating for him, but it's pretty clear why he's on the outside at PSG when you look at what Luis Enrique has done. But it's pretty clear that Aston Villa, particularly with John Duran, who's a different kind of player going to Saudi Arabia, that Villa had to beef up their bench and their talent level, and they've certainly done that.
Yeah, we must talk about PSG now that we have got you here, Frank Leboeuf.
Oh, by the way, I got a text off him yesterday, literally when we were going on air.
Okay.
What did the text say?
No, he wasn't gloating. I think it was just a large French flag.
Ah, Frankie.
Well, that's gloating in some sort of...
I think you're allowed, right,
All
Frank?
Yeah, he is.
Well, you know, Craig, you know, always trashing a little bit the Ligue 1. So I wanted to remind you that in France, we had at least one very good team. But no, it's crazy because Paris Saint-Germain made a statement yesterday. So many people came to me before the game yesterday, say, "What do you think they have a chance?" I say, "Well, it's football, so you always have a chance, but really." They missed their chances for me at the Parc des Princes, and Liverpool's going to punish them at Anfield. Well, what I saw is a team, an unbelievable team, a real team, because before were stars and the rest of the team. Now we see a team. We see in the middle of the park Fabian Ruiz, Vitinha, Neves, and also Zaire Emery when he comes on. But at front as well, a Dembele we have never seen. After almost 2 hours, I saw him coming back, tackling, getting the ball back, running forward, pressing the goalkeeper. I mean, that was amazing. Everything that I saw was amazing. Marquinhos is going to be suspended for the first leg, so it can be an handicap for the Paris Saint-Germain defense. But yesterday, what they showed, and I think we're going to see that at the Shaka Power Ranking Champions League favorite. I think we can see some changes. Yeah, oh my God. I think Paris Saint-Germain should be first. Well, they beat Liverpool, supposedly the best team in Europe. According to what we saw about Real Madrid today, I think if you don't put Paris Saint-Germain first and favorite, well, you know, you might be wrong. But
it's a perfect storm, wasn't it? Frank, it was a perfect storm because you had this PSG team that, since the turn of the year, have been magnificent. And you have this Liverpool team that up until 4 weeks ago, looked flawless. And then they started to just flag a little bit. And when you put those two together, then we got what we got, which was PSG thoroughly deserving to go through. And I think when this draw came out, most of us, almost all of us all went like that. Liverpool did not want that. They did not want that. But what's intriguing me is, Frank, what's the difference? I mean, Kvaratskhelia obviously, but, you know, apart. What's the difference from this PSG side that sort of huffed and puffed in League On, but certainly huffed and puffed in the early stages of the Champions League, and they looked a million miles away from what we've seen since Christmas time. So what has changed for this team? Well,
I think you can give credit to Luis Enrique. People are saying in France that he's been criticized a lot by the way Paris Saint-Germain were playing last year and the beginning of the season with the Champions League also and everything, but they clicked and everybody understood what he wanted. And I think it's because of him and, of course, the acceptance of the players that it works. Physically, they're strong. And he found the real chemistry. He tried some other things, but it works, and it works very well between the players. And every time somebody comes on, he understands what he has to do. So we don't see the differences. And we could see when Gomez was coming on 2 weeks ago in the Liga that it doesn't change anything. They are very effective, and you have to say, you know, when you have a midfield like the midfield that we see, and we have a Dembele, because we have to put Dembele in the tools that Luis Enrique has. That's a different Dembele. For the past 3 months, Dembele has been untouchable. Every time he does something, he tries something, he's successful of everything. So it changes a lot, but I have to say that they're stronger. Donnarumma, everybody has question marks, you know. Liverpool won 1-0, one chance. Elliott scored because of Donnarumma. Everybody was hammering Donnarumma. He was the man of the match yesterday. So you sometimes have ingredients which can make the differences in your team. And Luis Enrique found those ingredients and the way of talking to the players to make sure they commit. That's what it is, I think. You deserve to go through, but do you need the referee's help to go through? And that's sad, because it could have been another story. Lille were leading 1-0, they were qualified, and with that penalty, it changed everything. So maybe they would have scored goals, maybe Dortmund would have gone through because of the talent. But really, the referees, come on, and the people in the VAR, I mean, I'm fed up with that. I mean, they don't know football, they don't understand anything, they don't know what's going on, and they have to be punished for that, and badly punished, because I'm upset.
OK, so Borussia Dortmund are going to face Barcelona, as mentioned, as we take a look at the bracket for what is next for them. Borussia Dortmund have not done much this season in the Bundesliga, but somehow it's a different story in the Champions League. However, what can you give for them against this Barcelona team, Ale?
Well, here's the issue for Borussia Dortmund. The way that they like to play is very similar to the way that Barcelona likes to play. And I don't know if you've noticed, but Barcelona are significantly better at Borussia Dortmund in playing that sort of style. The individual talent is superior. If you indeed are going to go on a back and forth with Barcelona, which is something that Dortmund does quite regularly, you get in a back and forth with Barcelona, you're going to lose. And not only are you going to lose, you're going to lose by a lot. The matchup works perfectly for Barcelona, and it is horrendous, terrible for Borussia Dortmund. It's similar to Benfica in the way that they like to play. It was perfect for Barcelona, awful for Benfica, and we saw how that ended up.
End of the road for Borussia Dortmund against Barca?
Probably, but looking at how it's probably going to pan out, is it Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid if they beat Arsenal, against PSG if they beat Villa? So you can mix these Champions League early thing, 36 teams, 6 groups of 4, 18 groups of 1. I don't care how you do it. When it comes to the crunch, it looks like it's going to be the same big boys in the semi-final. And if it goes to plan, which is not makes no odds to me who goes through, but it looks like those stronger teams will go through. Semi-finals, boy, they're going to be something else.
Yes.
Probably with a magnifying of I don't know how many frames, a minute touch. This is not sport. This is not. I'm sorry. Now, you can technically and probably legally argue that to death, right? But I'm sorry. That's not. It's not where we should be going with this game. I don't think.
But even then, you still got to go. Wait, what? Did he get it? Did he not get it? Does it have an impact on where the ball goes? Does it make a difference? I know that that's not the law and that's not how we interpret it. But this is a very slippery slope that we're getting into when we make decisions like this. You've shown us a couple of angles, magnified, and we still got to look at it and go, I guess, I don't know. And if that's indeed our reaction, and we have, honestly, we don't care who advances, whether it's Atletico Madrid or Real Madrid. And we look at it and go, we're trying to be as objective as possible, and objectively speaking, can you really tell that there's a touch there? I cannot tell you that with 100% certainty.
Oh, apparently I've been sent a tweet about it as well, so let me see.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Yes.
Well, it's funny that because I was just thinking in my own head, well, that's the only place I can think, to be honest.
Yes, there are other places.
But I was thinking, I bet if you go, and I'm not going to bother, let you do it. I bet if you go on social media tonight, there'll be all these, plastic pundits, who think they know everything, blowing these stills up left, right and centre and arguing over everything. And I kind of think that's where we are. What's your tweet anyway?
It's just to do with a clarification for anyone who misunderstood. There's no chip in the ball for UEFA Champions League. So the UEFA Champions League uses a semi-automated offside technology, which is SAOT, that while not involving a chip in the ball, uses cameras and artificial intelligence to determine the kick point and offside position, reducing the time needed for VAR decisions.
What does that have to do with...
That's from CBS Sport. That comes from Christina Uncle. She's been with us here before on ESPN. We were working with her during the
What's that got to do with the
Euros.
penalty?
Yeah.
I've been sent that.
Is that a bit offsides? That's a bit offsides. Oh, what's she saying?
That they are using semi-automated technology in situations like this as well. Anyway,
I
I
am
don't
left
think
with
these guys are any the wiser.
I am left with more questions than answers.
Okay, well, don't ask me them because I don't have the answers
All right.
for them. But
Thank
I
you,
do have
Kay.
the questions for Extra Time, so stick around if you don't mind. Latest edition of Extra Time. It's another late one here tonight on ESPNFC. Thank you for sending in your questions on Instagram and on Twitter. We've got Frank, we've got Craig, and we've got Ale. Let's kick things off and let's get started with the first question.
I thought it was called X.
X. Oh, yeah, it is called X.
Oh, I'm just asking the question.
I'm not a stickler for the rules. I'm going to call it Twitter, all right?
All right, you do what you
All right,
want,
let's see
Kay.
if I've actually got the questions. Oh, here we go. How bad was Real Madrid today? Atleti weren't even defensive today. They just dominated Real Madrid. Real were just so poor. Just another tweeter, see? Frank, how bad were Real Madrid today?
They were bad enough to say that we didn't like them, the way they played, and maybe didn't deserve to go through. But we saw that so many times throughout the season that, we're not surprised. They're not connected to each other. They were very slow today. Defensively, of course, they were very fragile. So that's the Real Madrid that we have seen a lot this season. But they are through. So you have to give them the credit for that, because they went through beating a very good Atleti team. And we don't have the explanations for that. That's only football.
Frank just mentioned the word connection. The lack of connection for Real Madrid is physical and mental with each other. The lack of understanding where everybody is going to be without... When you have a team that is really in sync, that knows exactly who they are, as Real Madrid has been in the past, you know full well where the next player is going to be and where your next pass is going to go. So many times for Real Madrid, we just see turnovers where they are just kicking the ball straight out of bounds, or they leave the ball short for the next player because they don't quite know whether that guy is going to be here or there or everywhere. They're disconnected physically in terms of the line and mentally in terms of, I don't know what this player is going to offer me. We're still trying to figure out how to play together. And you would think that in March, this far into the season, that would have been worked out. It hasn't.
Maybe not. Craig, do you miss the away goal rule?
I don't even give it a second thought. I wouldn't even lose a second of a day over it.
If you were given the choice to have it or not have it, and you were the judge, what?
Judge?
Yeah,
I'd say do what you want. Do what you want. I don't care.
do whatever you want.
That's the kind of judge we need.
When we're in a game, when we're in a game now, where we have to magnify a player getting a touch by 1 million frames a second or whatever it is to see if he actually touched it twice, in a penalty shootout in one of the biggest games in world football, I don't think whether they have away goals or not is the biggest issue, if I'm being honest.
Most stressful knockout match of your career, Frank?
Wow. Oh, wow. Well, I wasn't playing, I was on the bench. But I really think that the final of the European Championship, when we played against Italy, we were losing 1-0 and we were going to lose. And Sylvain Wiltord scored the goal, and we went to extra time, and then Trezeguet scored the winning goal, and it was the golden goal at the time, so the game stopped. That was very stressful, because I remember saying to, I think it was Emmanuel Petit, he was next to me on the bench, and I said, well, I think we will have a very bad evening tonight, because we don't deserve to win. And like 2 minutes after, Wiltord scored, and that was another story.
Can I correct Frank? I'm going to correct Frank on his own career.
Okay.
I'm thinking the 98 World Cup against Paraguay, in which France, heavy favorites, and they needed a golden goal by Laurent Blanc. Why do I say that? Because at the time, José Luis Chilaver was one of the best goalkeepers in the world. And Paraguay would have loved to have gone to penalties. They were minutes away from penalties. And what we now call Frank Leboeuf a World Cup champion may not have happened if indeed they hadn't beaten Paraguay with that golden goal by Laurent Blanc.
Okay. All right. Any
I
thoughts?
give you that one. I give you that one, true. That one.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm thinking about the away goal.
Yeah, still thinking about that.
Actually,
All right.
Just briefly, 96, Euro 96, final group game, Scotland, Switzerland, Villa Park. England were playing Holland. England were we were beating Switzerland 1-0. 20 minutes to go, we were out because England were winning 3-0. And then we were in because England scored a fourth. So it was like, get up, get back, defend, and then we were out again because Patrick Kluivert scored the consolation through David Seaman's legs. So we're getting shouted to get back up the field. So it was like, seriously, it was a mad last 20 minutes where we were going for the second goal to get us into the knockout stages. And then when England scored, we had to sit back. And then when Kluivert scored, we had to go forward again. And that was just a manic situation. And ultimately, we got knocked out on that goal. But I remember that, like, it was crazy. Absolutely crazy.
It was a crazy one. Craig, will Asensio come back to haunt Luis Enrique?
I don't think so. I think Villa are tidy but a little limited at this level, hence their sort of league struggles this season. And over the two games, the way that this PSG side move the ball and the way that they press it and then the threat that they have, I don't think so.
Now, Ali, obviously this question was sent in before the game had finished between Real Madrid and Atleti, but is it an advantage for Atleti in La Liga's title race, the result tonight?
Well, I don't think it's an advantage for Atletico Madrid in the sense that you go through this very stressful game, physically taxing game, mentally taxing game, and you have to figure out a way to reproduce a performance against Barcelona, which will be for Atletico Madrid the way to get back into the title race at home on Sunday. You have to win that match if you're Atletico Madrid. And so I don't know that physically you're going to be ready to go, mentally whether you're able to turn the page as quickly as you need to. Barcelona basically had a glorified training session yesterday against Benfica. They'll be fresh and ready to go. So in that sense, I don't think this is an advantage for Atletico Madrid. I suppose that what you're getting to is the fact that Real Madrid is going to continue to play stressful matches in Champions League and Atletico Madrid won't, but they won't get in the race unless they beat Barcelona this Sunday.
Well, that is all we've got time for on the latest edition of Extra Time because it's a late one this evening, but we will be back tomorrow.